welcome to another edition of the Flying Elvis Faithful. It's your boy Shaq flying the flag of the Flying Elvis here in the evil city of Gotham. That's New York City. And today on the program, we're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff. We got to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles loss, 35-28. And so there's a lot going on in that game, so we have a lot to talk about in that. And being that we're doing the show today, there's a lot to talk about as far as transactions. There's a Brady Deflategate feel that we have to breeze through, hopefully. And we have a Houston game to preview, so there's a lot to get to. But before we do any of that, I want to introduce my two cat's cows to help me with the heavy loading here. First, from Oklahoma, it's Josh Madsen. Josh, how you doing?
Good evening, Shaq, and good evening, John.
And from the great state of Massachusetts, it's John Doucette. John, how you doing?
Gentlemen, how are we this evening?
Doing good.
Doing awesome, man. Well, I wouldn't say awesome, but doing as long as we're alive, I guess that's a good thing, because Patriot Nation is obviously distraught over the second loss of the season at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles, 35-28. And before we get to any of the discussing of the game, guys, I just want to know your initial thoughts on the direct aftermath, because I've never seen such vitriol come after a second loss. I mean, again, the fact that the Patriots only have 2 losses and it's December 8th, it's truly amazing that some folks are just so darn spoiled that they just can't enjoy a season. So what do you guys think about it?
Well, the issue is, I think a lot of that is coming from the fact there's 2 other teams in the AFC with only 2 losses as well, and the Patriots had just lost to a team that absolutely no one out there was expecting to lose to. So I can see where there's a lot of groaning, and you could tell by the fans' reaction during the game, which I was disappointed with, by the way, but they weren't happy either watching the game and how they performed on Sunday.
Look, there is a level of expectation up here that probably has grown just because of the Super Bowl championships and even playing for others that they lost. So there's always going to be high expectation up here, and when this team from time to time kind of stumbles and bumbles their way through things, that expectation is going to be reminded to them in the form of boos, and you might have heard some of those boos when they walked off the field at halftime. It's just the nature of the beast because of the level of performance that they pretty much have established for themselves.
Well, listen, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a 26-year-old Patriots fan. I'm too young to remember the days of guys like Rod Rust and blackouts and ineptitude that made New England the laughingstock of the league. And listen, there's no question that I, along with a lot of Patriots fans of my generation, especially millennials that they call it, we've been spoiled, frankly. And when your team is missing 2 of its top offensive weapons and its best defensive player, and you still expect to win, I mean, you've come a really long way. But and again, I get the boos and I get all of that, but I just think it's really you're allowed to boo because obviously you pay a lot of money to go to a football game, but I just think that you should be able to at least stay for the whole game. And I saw a lot of empty seats in Gillette Stadium as well, and that kind of disappointed me. But that's the least of which disappointed me in this game. But let's start talking about it. First, let's talk about the first quarter, which actually it was a scoreless first quarter. The Patriots offense began to get back on track after that quarter, and Tom Brady led them on back-to-back 80-yard drives, which were finished off by touchdown passes to James White and Danny Amendola, who returned to action on Sunday, and he actually played pretty well. And they were down 14-0, and the Eagles looked dead in the water, and things appeared to be playing out the way they envisioned. But then, it was then that Bill Belichick pulled an absolutely unbelievable boner by attempting an onside kick with none other than Nate Ebner. So, guys, there's been obviously a lot of debate over the last 48 hours about this. What did you guys think about this decision, and do you think that it was ultimately the decision that cost them the game?
Well, the thing is at first, initially I wasn't thinking anything. I just thought New England was messing around, kind of like they did against the Redskins with the onside kick, and it didn't work this time, and then all of a sudden the Eagles are going down the field and scoring a touchdown, so then it kind of hits you like, wow, that might have been a really dumb decision, and then the game started to play out, and then it got worse, so that's my impression of it.
Well, let's face it, first of all, he didn't call it an onside kick, he called it a pooch kick.
Yeah, pooch kick.
And secondly, he went for the kill. I mean, they were up 14-0 at the time. He decided to pooch it and try and go for the kill and maybe catch the Eagles not necessarily paying attention. Unfortunately, the ball didn't bounce the way it was intended to. That Nate Ebner didn't pooch it the way he was supposed to, and well, the Eagles got themselves a short field and took it back down the field and scored, and the game did flip. There's no question about the fact that the game flipped on that drive off that pooch kick, and what happened afterwards, it kind of flowed forward from there for the Eagles. But, you can always debate whether or not going for the kill in the early stages of a second quarter is the wise thing to do. There are times when it works, and let's face it, if it did, we'd be sitting here saying he was a genius by going ahead and doing this.
That's right.
But the fact that it didn't work, now all of a sudden you're going the other way with your opinion.
Yeah, and I just don't get how people are putting the kickoff as a turning point. Really, for me, the turning point was the punt block for the touchdown, and that really was the difference between 14-7 at halftime and 14-14 at halftime. All the kick really did was give them about 15 to 20 more yards than they would have had. You can't say if that was the difference between a touchdown and no touchdown. So anyway,
well, what it did, Shaq, was it gave the Eagles a short field. And think about it. When you go back and go through all the drives that the Eagle offense had for the game, that was really the one drive that they executed pretty much for the entire day. But it got the Eagles started in the right direction. I think that's the part of the boot kick that really can't be denied. It got them back on track. Yes, the block punt may have totally flipped the game their way, but the block punt doesn't mean anything unless you take that short field opportunity and turn it into a score as well.
Yeah, well, then things started to even escalate after that. So after the indecision with under 15 seconds to play in the half, Brady attempts the sideline pass where Scott Chandler and Keyshawn Martin are in the same place. One of them runs the wrong route. Chandler attempts to corral the high pass that maybe was earmarked for Martin, and it bounces incomplete. And that forces the Patriots to punt, and the special teams unit that Bill Belichick raved about, I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles special teams unit, they showed up in force. And really that was the 14-point turnaround that gave Philly the first lead of the day at 21-14. And then the other special teams meltdown occurred after the possession with Darren Sproles, who I would think that he'd be one of the guys that they would focus on, but just not to be. He receives the punt at the Philadelphia 17 and goes 83 yards for the score. Now they're in a 14-point hole, that's Patriots are, and the handwriting was on the wall for this one. I'll be honest with you guys. After that, I was really out of it, and I've never been out of it for a Patriots game. Not even a Super Bowl, and you would think that would be a game where you would be even more out of it. But I was just really frustrated with that. But then the Patriots start to come back, which is very interesting to me because I didn't even think that this would even be possible. And Brady mounted the furious comeback with Scott Chandler fade to the back of the left side to make it 35-21. Then it was another onside kick, but then a third one, and then Riley Cooper did something crazy. It was just a whole mess. And I really don't get why Nate Edler kicking the ball twice on an attempted onside kick rather than the actual kicker Stephen Gostkowski, but it wasn't meant to be. So, but guys, I want to talk about a lot of things that we've noticed despite the loss. I want to talk about James White, for instance. He had a productive afternoon out of the backfield, caught 10 passes for 115 yards as well as a touchdown, and it looks like he's starting to gain some confidence. John, what did you think about James White and his performance?
Well, I think that's what you're going to need. I mean, let's face it, this offense doesn't have many weapons, so to be able to acquire one in the Dion Lewis role, I think is very pivotal for this team going forward. And yes, you're right, James White did have a very good Sunday afternoon for the Patriots with the 10 receptions and 115 yards, and it did feel like he had a pretty good idea of the short passing game that he's really going to be a part of. That's the good news. The bad news is the Patriots didn't run the football in this game at all, and they were going up against a defense that really was going to allow you to do so. Now, I mean, you just can't be a one-dimensional team at this time of the year, and I do think the Patriots became that really the last 2 weeks. They didn't run the ball in Denver at all, and for some reason they decided not to do it last Sunday against the Eagles. And you're going up against a defense that over its last couple of games was giving up 195 yards on the ground per game. So I think the running game does need to be reestablished by this offense sooner rather than later.
I'm starting to wonder.
Josh, you would beat this, John.
Yeah, I don't know if New England has any belief in their run game, and I think that has a lot to do with it because they don't seem interested in running the ball, and when they do, it just seems like they're just trying to run out the clock or maybe get a couple yards on the first down, but then they're just resorting to the run pass game, and I think that's how it's been most of the year, and I think they're just sticking to what they know. And James White, okay, so this guy had a great game, and he's probably the only guy on offense who played a really good game, and Amendola played good too, just coming back from his injury. So that, those were the two highlight players on offense, and James White definitely showed me something. He showed me that he can take over for Dion Lewis. I don't think we can expect him to be anything as good as Dion Lewis throughout the rest of the year, but I think it was a good sign from this game that he can be an important role to this team.
And guys, I want to stick with the running game here, and I just watching the Eagles tape, watching the game on Sunday, something really isn't right with Garrett Blount. I mean, the fact that the Patriots haven't relied on him too much, it's really starting to come into focus. And the play in particular where I'm really alarmed was where he ran it to Tom Brady after seemingly going the wrong way on the handoff. And, I mean, the fact is he doesn't seem as explosive as he's been in the past few years. And it seems like he's running as fast as he can while moving in slow motion. But I guess the one good thing about Blount is he still has the power, and he still is a threat once he gets into the second level. But the bad news for me is that it doesn't seem to be a lot of burst from him. And as you said, John, it's important in the playoffs to be able to run the football. You have to be able to do that. You cannot allow Tom Brady to get hit so much in the pocket. I mean, especially with the offensive line, which we would think it's almost as healthy as it would be, but it wasn't when Josh Klein went out. But it's really alarming that Tom Brady was getting – they were dropping 8 in the coverage, the Eagles were, and they flooded the short zones, and they were able to bring pressure, rushing only 3. Texans defensive coordinator Romeo Crennel, which we'll talk about later on, I'm sure he was watching that tape. With not a lot of offensive guys, you got to be able to run the football. You got to. So that really baffles me.
Well, let's face it. Are we talking about LeGarrette Blount's inability to find holes, or are we talking about an offensive line that just can't create the holes for him to run through?
Yeah.
I think that it may be a combination of the two that needs to be fixed. And let's face it, this offensive line is having its issues. I don't think there's any doubt about that either. I mean, Brady gets sacked 4 times, which is bad enough, but more importantly, he got hit 13 times during that game, which just cannot continue to happen. So I do think that this offensive line needs to reestablish themselves at the line of scrimmage, to provide a running game to be established, and also to provide their quarterback with a chance to stand upright more often than not.
Yeah, I think LeGarrette Blount's mostly, I think he gets, a lot of his yards are after contact, and I think that's the type of runner he is, and the issue is they're just not creating holes for him that he needs to get, to the linebackers, to that point of the field, and and then Brandon Bolden